The United States' deepest worries have eventually become its reality. Finally, China is technologically ready and possesses the resources to face the United States head-on. The battle for technological dominance between these two nations led to a rivalry that has lasted for quite a long time now. But China's dedication and commitment to improving its military sector has led to the creation of submarines that can wipe out the US in 30 seconds, leaving the United States on edge. What are the capabilities of these submarines? What does the US plan to do about it? Join us as we unveil the unrivaled features of the Chinese submarines that can wipe out the US in 30 seconds. China's continuous creation of extremely lethal submarines have gotten the attention of the United States, and they are not happy about this new development. According to the head of Pacific Fleet, Sam Paparo, to the military reporters at a conference in Washington, the Chinese Navy's submarines were built to threaten the US, and the United States is not ready for what's about to hit them because the nation's attention is divided due to the increase in the tension between Ukraine and Russia. Just recently, China invested a huge amount of money and has just built a submarine, about 6 of them, that is equipped with the right features to wipe out America in just a matter of seconds. This country's Navy did not just get formidable over time. It was a gradual process that required commitment and financial dedication. China has 5 aircraft carriers and 60 cruisers and destroyers, and there are speculation that its Navy may surpass America's by 2030. This country has continued to produce a sizable number of additional combat aircraft, with a next-generation tactical bomber, H-20, as well as ships and ground-based missile systems. However, a lot of room is given to the nuclear weapons project, which might result in about 700 warheads by 2027 and another 300 by 2030. That aside, the Chinese fleets of nuclear ballistic missile submarines, or SSBN, and submarine-launched ballistic missiles, or SLBM, has gotten the attention of the US Pentagon with their unmatched features and capabilities. But before we go into what the United States plans to do about this, let's look into the capabilities of the submarines that can wipe out the United States in a fleeting second, the Type 094. This submarine, also known as the Jin class, is a type of nuclear ballistic missile submarine that is being developed by China for its Navy. It follows the Type 092 submarine and comes before the Type 096 submarine, which is currently being developed. There are 6 of this Type 094 submarines in the Chinese growing fleet, and each of them is equipped with 12 missile launchers and a total of 72 missiles. As part of China's nuclear defense, at least 4 of these submarines, possibly all, are based on Hainan Island in the South China Sea and regularly patrol there. To protect its submarines from foreign anti-submarine forces, China plans to use the South China Sea as a safe zone for its submarines. The submarine's main designer was Zhang Jinlin, and its design is likely based on or was inspired by the Type 093 nuclear-powered attack submarine. A Type 094 was seen in satellite photos in late 2006 at the Xiaopingdao submarine base. The first one was commissioned in 2007, and 6 were in service by 2020. They began nuclear deterrence patrols in December 2015. According to the U.S. Department of Defense, the Type 094 is China's first credible sea-based nuclear deterrent. Initially, they were armed with 12 JL-2 missiles, each with a single warhead, and were capable of reaching parts of Alaska from near China. By late 2022, the submarines were equipped with JL-3 missiles, which can reach the continental United States from the South China Sea, with reported ranges of over 10,000 kilometers. Let's talk about the capabilities of this missile. The Zhulong-2, also known as JL-2, is a submarine-launched ballistic missile which had a range of about 4,464 miles, according to the Congressional Research Service, allowing Chinese submarines to target portions of Alaska from regions near China. To reach the east coast of the United States, the submarines would have had to enter waters east of Hawaii. Now that this powerful submarine has been equipped with the better, lethal, and longer-range JL-3, it would provide China the opportunity to attack the United States from a safe haven in the South China Sea. According to some American press sources, the JL-3 may have a range of more than 6,200 miles. But that's not all. One interesting fact is that the JL-3 is designed to have the ability to extend its range if need be. The majority of North and South Dakota, as well as Montana, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Utah, and California, would be under threat if China's missile submarines change their patrol zones to cover the Bay of Bohai. It is doable for China to target the remainder of the United States, but doing so would require Chinese submarines to go outside of Japan and Taiwan into the Western Pacific, where Chinese air and naval forces are unable to defend them from opponent anti-submarine warfare forces. Chinese missile submarines are still not quiet enough to operate alone, unlike American ones. The submarine is noisier than modern submarines. In 2004, a Chinese researcher said that the submarine had a noise level of 120 decibels, similar to the Los Angeles-class submarine. Also in 2009, the United States Navy's Office of Naval Intelligence mentioned that the Type 094 was noisier than Soviet-Russian submarines from the late 1970s. In 2015, Australian researchers Brendan Thomas Noon and Rory Medcalf noted that its noise and the range of its JL-2 missiles made it less effective for attacks on the United States, but not on India. China has not officially announced the commissioning of the JL-3 missiles. The information was gotten from American sources and estimates. Chinese military experts argue that China is developing these missiles to protect itself from nuclear threats. They claim that U.S. military speculation is based on false information to justify increasing its defense budget and presence in the Asia-Pacific region, especially during the Russia-Ukraine war, by exaggerating China's routine defense developments. This couldn't be far from the truth because truly, the United States military aims to increase the number of anti-submarine troops stationed in the West Pacific and build its own more sophisticated nuclear-powered submarines, such as the Columbia class, which is scheduled to take the place of the Ohio class. Exaggerating the threat from China helps the U.S. military get more funds and regional support. China's submarine-based nuclear forces are mainly for counterattacks, keeping their nuclear capabilities just at the minimum needed for national security. China won't aggressively threaten or attack others, but will deter other nations from using nuclear threats against them. In realistic terms, by 2030, China has what it takes to increase its number of cruisers and destroyers from 36 to 60 and its aircraft carriers from 3 to 5. This could also lead to an increase in Type 094 nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines from 6 to 10. The Chinese Navy's overall tonnage, or total weight of its ships, would also rise from its current level of 1.3 million tons to almost 2 million tons. In comparison, the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet has 6 aircraft carriers, 50 cruisers and destroyers, and 8 nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines. This estimate does not even include the number of ships in the Atlantic Fleet. Overall, the United States Navy's total tonnage is about 4.5 million tons, which is way more than China's total tonnage. This leads us to believe that maybe the United States has the real big submarine, the USS West Virginia. While most of China's submarines run on diesel, all U.S. submarines run on nuclear power. And when talking about U.S. nuclear naval strength, it is quite impossible not to talk about the USS West Virginia. It's an old but very important submarine from the Ohio class that has been in service since 1990. USS West Virginia, also known as BB-48, was the 4th big battleship of the Colorado class. However, since Washington was canceled, she ended up being the 3rd and last ship of the class to be finished. The Colorado class marked the peak of the standard battleship series made for the United States Navy in the 1910s and 1920s. These ships were basically repeats of the earlier Tennessee design, but with a much stronger main battery of 8 16-inch guns and twin-gun turrets. West Virginia was built from 1920 to 1923. The early stages of the construction of a new Block 5 variant of Virginia-class attack submarines, which significantly enhance firepower, combine cutting-edge new sonar technology, and make use of the most recent developments in automation and AI, are progressing for the United States Navy through a $22 billion contract between the Navy and General Dynamics Electric Boat. The development agreement advanced significantly. 8 of the new Block 5 deal are being built with a new 80-foot armament section in the boat, allowing the submarine to boost the number of onboard Tomahawk assault missiles from 12 to 40. U.S. Navy Ohio-class submarines are equipped with one of the most formidable and lethal missiles ever, the Trident 2-5 missile. The three-stage ballistic missile may carry several independently targeted re-entry bodies and has a maximum range of 4,000 nautical miles. According to Navy estimates, the 130,000-pound Trident 2-5 missile has the ability to go farther than 20,000 feet per second. However, this lethal equipment comes at a cost. Each rocket is $30 million. The Trident D5S has the ability to carry three types of warheads: the 100-kiloton W76 Mach 4, the 100-kiloton W76-1 Mk4A, and the 455-kiloton W88 Mk5 warhead, the highest-yield ballistic missile warhead in the U.S. arsenal. The Navy is making updates to the nuclear missile so that it can still be used on their nuclear ballistic missile submarines for another 25 years. These submarines, like the Ohio-class ones, have been using these 44-foot-long missiles for 25 years already. The Navy wants to extend the service life of the Trident missiles to make sure they can do their job well in the future. These missiles are also going to be used as the main weapon for the new ballistic missile submarines that will replace the Ohio-class. These new submarines are expected to be in service for a long time, possibly until the 2080s. Why is the United States Navy so particular about these Trident missiles? Let's get into its specifications. The Trident submarines are 560 feet in length, or nearly 2 football fields. Each submarine designed in such a way that allows it to carry 24 submarine-launched ballistic missiles, or SLBMs, designated Trident D5, and each missile can carry up to 8 100-kiloton nuclear warheads, which has about times the explosive force of the Hiroshima bomb. The missile is 44.6 feet tall and could travel up to 4,230 nautical miles when fully loaded with warheads, and over 6,000 nautical miles with fewer warheads. However, it is a possibility that some changes might have been made to these numbers due to upgrades and life extension programs. The warheads used are either Mark IV W76 or Mark V W88. However, that's not all. Trust the United States to always have something up its sleeves, and yes, it involves an advanced submarine. The U.S. new Columbia class, which is now under construction, may be the quietest underwater vessel ever made. Among other elements, it makes use of smooth, effective electric propulsion as opposed to the mechanical drive propulsion train used on other Navy submarines, and an unconventionally designed X-shaped stern. Navy specialists explain that in new Ohio-class submarines, a reactor plant generates heat, which is transformed into steam. This steam powers the ship forward and also spins turbines to generate energy for the submarine. This movement is achieved through reduction gears, which change the fast-spinning energy of the turbines into the right speed to turn the propeller of the boat. According to Navy sources, these submarines are 560 feet long and can launch 16 Trident 2D5 missiles from tubes that are 44 feet long. As submarine technology improved, they switched from using propellers to propulsors for quieter movement, but this reduced their ability to surface. The X-shaped stern is meant to address this issue. Electric propulsion still relies on a nuclear reactor to create heat and steam for turbines. Instead of using reduction gears to turn the propellers, power goes to an electric motor. An old MIT study suggests that electric motors have extra benefits. They use reactor power more efficiently than mechanical drives, leaving more power for other uses on board. Author Joel Harbour states that a mechanical drive submarine uses 80% of its reactor power just for propulsion. Although it's still evolving, here are some of the characteristics for the SSBN-X design. It is expected to serve for 42 years and complete 124 deterrent patrols. It will have a nuclear fuel core that lasts the entire service life, unlike the Ohio-class submarines that need refueling. It will have a beam that is as wide as the Ohio-class submarines, at least 42 feet. Also, instead of 24 missile launch tubes like the Ohio-class, it will have 16. Despite having fewer launch tubes, the SSBN-X is expected to have the same submerged size as the Ohio-class. The United States Navy also insists that these new submarines must have the latest capabilities in stealth for their entire 40-year lifespan. Additionally, some of the design details revealed include X-shaped stern control surfaces, sail-mounted dive planes, electric drive, and equipment from previous submarine designs like pump jet propulsor, anechoic coating, and large aperture bow sonar system. The Columbia-class submarine might also feature a submarine warfare federated tactical system, which integrates various systems for sonar, optical imaging, and weapons control. To cut costs and make less noise, the Columbia submarine will use electric drive. Instead of gears and mechanical systems, it will use an electric motor to turn its propellers. It will still have a nuclear reactor and steam turbines like other U.S. Navy submarines. In this setup, the nuclear reactor heats water to make steam, the turbines change the steam's heat into mechanical energy, and generators turn that into electrical energy for the propulsion motors and other onboard systems. Electric drive systems like this were used successfully on U.S. battleships and aircraft carriers in the early 1900s, and on a small nuclear-powered submarine called USS Tullabee in the late 1950s. Another bigger nuclear submarine, USS Glenard P. Lipscomb, also had electric drive, but had problems with being too weak, unreliable, and needing lots of maintenance. As of 2013, the only submarines using electric drive were the French Navy's Triomphant-class submarines. In 2014, Northrop Grumman was picked to design and make the turbine generator units for the Columbia. Also, that same year, Leonardo DRS was chosen to provide the main propulsion motor and propulsion motor drive. The first motor for the lead ship was delivered to Electric Boat in August 2022. Different kinds of electric motors are being developed for both military and civilian boats. For future United States' submarines, they're looking at permanent magnet motors being made by General Dynamics and Newport News Shipbuilding, as well as high-temperature superconducting synchronous motors from American Superconductors and General Atomics. Recent info suggests the U.S. Navy is leaning towards permanent magnet, radial gap electric propulsion motors. The design of Zumwalt-class destroyers switched from permanent magnet motors to advanced induction motors. In 2013, permanent magnet motors were tested for use on late-production Virginia-class submarines and future ones. Siemens AG permanent magnet motors are used on Type 212 submarines used by the German and Italian navies. The Royal Navy's new Dreadnought-class submarine, meant to replace the Vanguard class, might use a submarine shaftless drive with an electric motor placed outside the pressure hull. The U.S. Navy looked into SSD, but it's quite uncertain if the Columbia class will use it. Normally, steam turbines in today's nuclear submarines connect to gears and a shaft that turns the propeller or pump jet propulsor. With SSD, steam would power electric turbogenerators, which in turn would connect to an electric motor outside the hull, likely an integrated motor propulsor, to drive the pump jet propulsor. Some SSD concepts don't include pump jet propulsors. In 2015, a model at a Navy exposition suggested that the Columbia-class sub might visually resemble the Virginia-class, possibly to save costs and lower construction risks. A computer-driven joystick navigation system, fly-by-wire technology, and fiber optic periscope technology are a few more technologies used by the Columbia-class that were designed exclusively for the Block III Virginia-class combat submarine. It's interesting that the submarine can automatically choose how deep it goes and how fast it moves, thanks to something called automated navigation. This lets the human operator focus on giving commands. Even though the United States has fewer ships compared to China, its naval force is still stronger. This is true not just for aircraft carriers and their groups, which China might match soon, but also for submarine warfare. The U.S. has better technology here, which might be harder for China to beat. These new, quieter submarines could be part of the same kind of strategic game seen in the Cold War. But the United States should have all hands on deck because China is not one to back down from a challenge and would do what it takes to surpass the United States' position at the forefront of technological advancement. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.